everyone, and welcome to a brand new series, the first episode of a brand new series, FM20 Deja Vu. So what is an FM20 Deja Vu? Well, it's quite simple really. I've taken two teams, and the two teams that we've decided upon are Rangers and Celtic in the Scottish Premier League. And over the next 10 weeks, every Sunday evening, there will be a match to watch between Rangers and Celtic in the Deja Vu series. And the only difference that is going to happen each week in this series is that my Rangers side against the AI-driven Celtic team will be going through each one of these preset tactical styles already created by the good kind folk at Football Manager. So you can see that we've got lots of things to go through, tiki-taka and fluid counter-attacking and wing play and control possession and the likes. And so every week we're going to pick a style and we're going to set this Rangers team up to play that particular style. We're always going to use these 11 players to start the game, and we're always going to use this formation. So the only thing that changes are these preset tactics. The game has been paused on the 22nd of September just because I opened up the game and we holidayed right the way through to the point where Rangers and Celtic first play in the league. Interestingly, you can see that Rangers are sitting 4th and Celtic in 6th, so neither are having a particularly great season, really. So yeah, I just holidayed it through to this point. I've then gone in and set this tactics screen up. So it's currently sitting on Park the Bus, which is the first one that we're going to be looking at. As I say, I've set the 11. I've got a fully fit squad, which is really good. It could have been anything. Half of them could have been out injured for all I knew. But they're not. They're all fit and healthy enough to play. I also took away the option of bringing in any new players in the summer transfer window that's just been. So neither Celtic or Rangers have changed any of their personnel from the vanilla game, as it were. And so, yeah, this is the setup for the next 10 weeks. Join me and we'll just see what difference these preset tactical styles make to each of the games. Celtic, in theory, should set up pretty much the same every time we play them, I think, roughly. And so we'll see whether what we do changes the game format as much or as little as possible. What I also then want you to do for me is just get involved in the conversation in the comments below. If you can, if you figure something out that you like about this particular style of play or any of the 10 weeks that we do, chuck a comment down in the comments below and tell me what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, what your experiences are of using the tactic that we're using for this particular video. And then what you notice as we move on as to what the differences are or aren't and how much of a difference it's making. Just get involved in that kind of conversation. For my part, I will simply go through the normal process. We'll have picked the team, we'll have changed the tactic each week. We'll then go and play a simple match. We'll have the game probably on, Let's talk about what we'll have the settings of the match engine on in a second when we go into it. But it'll be probably slightly longer in terms of gameplay than what we normally would have, just to give us a fairer understanding of how the tactic is working. So I don't know how long these episodes will last at this point. I'm recording the first one, but it might be slightly longer than normal, but it shouldn't be too long. And I hope that you'll enjoy the process over the next 10 weeks on a Sunday evening, going through another old firm derby between Rangers and Celtic, and just seeing what these tactical styles, how they impact the game. Hope all that makes sense. If you've got any questions, if you've got any thoughts, chuck them in the comments below and I'll endeavour to answer them in next week's episode. But for now, what we can see is we've got the Park the Bus tactical style, which gives us a defensive mentality. If we go in possession, you can see that we're playing fairly narrow. You've got lots of early crosses, disciplined. We're on a much lower tempo. Time wasting is on frequently, and a standard passing directness. In terms of the in transition, regroup, counter attack when possession has been won. Slow the pace down from the goalkeeper, is going to kick long. And then we've got a very, very low defensive line and a low line of engagement for our attacking players as well. Use tight marking, get stuck in, and less urgent on the pressing intensity. So those are the things that we're looking out for in the Park the Bus. Quite a defensive structure, counter-attacking football. Can we use the wide men to get the opportunities for Morelos to get the goals in that penalty box. Those are the things we're looking out for. Will it work? What's the line of engagement like compared to what Celtic offer us? Celtic are going to be a challenging team for us to play in each of these games, whatever we come up with. So I'll just be interested to see what style of play really challenges them the most. So let's just check out the squad as we've got it. We're playing an 11 plus our 7 substitutes. So it's McGregor in goal with Tavernier at right back and Barisic on left back, Katic and Goldson. Some of these names I don't know. This is a new side to me. And they're our central defensive pair. Then we've got Jack, Davis and Arfield in central midfield with Hadji on the right, Ojo on the left and Morelos up top. And we've got a bench of Edmondson, Flanagan, Kamara, Aribo, Stewart, Kent and Defoe. So let's get into the first of our FM20 Deja Vu matches between Rangers and Celtic and see what happens. So I'm not going to use a team talk as such. I'm going to let them go out with clear minds every week and just see what the impact the game has. If we pause it in the first couple of seconds of the game and go into the settings, the one setting that we're going to take off the key highlights and we're going to put it into comprehensive highlights and just see how that goes for us in terms of how many opportunities that provides for us to have a look at. So here's a first highlight, and you can see our defensive line has really dropped back right the way into our box, and they had a decent run into that far side of the penalty box, but it was eventually led to nothing. But this is what we're going to see. We're going to soak up a lot of pressure, I suspect, in this particular one, and wait for that line of engagement right in our defensive area. One or two attacking-minded players will sit and sort of on the wide area specifically and try and get in the face of the fullbacks maybe, but other than that I don't expect too much of a pressing game in this particular instance, and you can see that that's the case. But they are defending very well in that last ditch effort, especially down that far left hand side of our defence at the moment. Corner kick to Celtic comes in. These are the moments where just a little bit of quality from any team, however well you set up in your normal tactics, can change the game on things like throw-ins and free kicks and corner kicks, etc. You can see that because of the style of play that we've got, the Celtic are having an awful lot of the ball in the very early stages and have worked it very nicely into the box again, but we're getting lots of last ditch blocks and then a really scrappy goal, wasn't it? Celtic were a bit lucky on that occasion. There was a good couple of opportunities for our defenders to clear it and a couple of just slack moments really. Eventually there's a decent shot, a good block, a second shot that ricochets off a couple of people and eventually wrong foots the goalkeeper, goes in the back of the net. I don't think that talks necessarily in terms of the tactical style of play. I think that's more on a little bit of unlucky ricocheting in the penalty box on that occasion. But here's a chance to see how we cope with moving forward. And that was an interesting cut back from Ojo, wasn't it, really? But again, he gets the ball down that left-hand side. Should be putting that cross in earlier than that, but didn't quite on that occasion. But gets a decent free kick from it, doesn't he? And a perfect opportunity for us to try and get one back early in the game, if possible, from a set piece. And it goes far post to Morelos, who gets under the ball, but it's cleared partially. We pick up the loose ball again, back into our defensive area. And it'll be interesting to see what the structure of our counter-attacks are, really, because the suggestion is that we should be counter-attacking, drawing them in and counter-attacking quite quickly. Tavernier down that right-hand side, playing as a fairly high-up fullback on a defensive structured tactic, but his role is still to move forward. A decent free kick, wasn't it? A good push around the post by the goalkeeper. Another opportunity for a corner kick, should I say. Again, it's partially cleared, and we pick it up in that midfield area. And do we settle back down again and bring it into our defensive area to draw them in? And we kind of do. So Celtic again get another chance down their left-hand side. And you can see again, very, very deep, very well structured. And that last-ditch effort by one of the fullbacks has been really key so far. Good delivery up to Ojo, who gets it onto Morelos and tries to ride a challenge. Doesn't quite, but will pick up the loose ball. And a stumble from the defender meant that Morelos continued to push forward. And Hashi takes over, and a good block down that side of the penalty box by Celtic. And again, it's quite a highlight heavy set piece setup, isn't it, really, so far? Lots of corner kicks and free kicks and the like. And we again pick up that loose ball. Do we settle the play and go for an early cross? We do. And that's the sort of style of play down that those wide areas, decent early crosses. Again, we have a second chance for a cross, but it doesn't quite come in. So what are you noticing? What do you see as this style of play and how it's working so far in comparison to maybe what you would normally use? What can you see the benefits of this sort of setup are? Tavernier down that right hand side again in lots of space, and again gets that ball, puts it back into the centre of the penalty box, but Celtic are doing a good job of clearing their lines quite well. But I quite like this setup so far. Obviously it gives Celtic a little bit of a run at us occasionally, but on that counter-attack I think we're doing quite well. After 15 minutes you can see that the chances are even. It's just a little bit of quality or lack of quality in our defensive area on that one occasion led to a goal, but other than that it's been fairly even so far. And I would suggest that our kind of defensive setup hasn't stopped us too badly from actually clearing our lines well and using our offensive players quite well. And there's a case in point, Arfield taking over from Morelos. A good defensive challenge by Celtic central defender there though, but you can see that just because we have it set defensively minded as a quite a low impact sort of line of engagement, etc., doesn't mean that when we got the ball we're not using it quite offensively and quite quickly at times. Again, we win that ball down in that fullback area. Very impressed by our two fullbacks so far, and he nicely brings the ball out and Morelos over the top down that left hand side, and again we're counter-attacking quite well, and that's the style of play in the Park the Bus. I've never used it myself personally. I might have had it occasionally if I really need to hold on to a particular lead that we've got, but only very briefly. It's not a tactic I've set my teams to ever use as a primary example of how we play. I wonder if any of you do. Is that something that you've done before? Set up a team in a division where you know that you're the underdogs and really challenged yourself to be defensively sound and counter-attacking using the Park the Bus mentality. I know a lot of managers get slayed for it in reality for doing that type of thing, but it's a perfectly legitimate way to play the game as much as anything else is. We had another good chance there, didn't we, off that right hand side? Didn't quite work out again, but that slight quality of finishing is an issue, but not creating the chances. They're doing okay. Celtic come back at us, and again we reset very nicely into those two banks of 4 or 5 in midfield, and getting them to work hard to get past us. And you know, their quality means that occasionally they do that, but it's going very well. I'm really quite impressed. Possession stats are pretty equal as well. I'm be interested to see long term over the next few weeks whether Celtic's way of playing changes as we progress through these matches or not. As to, you know, whether when they see what we're doing, whether they change their style for us. But at the moment, I think that if you were a Rangers fan looking in on this particular match, you'd be very disappointed that we let a weak goal in, but reasonably happy that we are at least competing very nicely against a very good Celtic team. Davis in the midfield to Jack onto Ojo, and he gets a chance to go into Arfield, and there's plenty of options there, but Arfield gets caught out a little bit. Maybe we'll dwell on the ball a little bit because of the defensive mentality. But that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on in the second half as we go through as well, as to whether they're making quick enough decisions in this particular style of tactic. Again, Celtic get it in, and again a good block by the defence, and we boot it clear. And that was good defending again in some tricky situations. And I think that overall, I'd be very happy with this sort of performance. And here's another chance for us to break and the counter-attack. And let's see who can support his run. So Arfield from the centre of midfield drifts out wide right to Vernier. It's again those fullbacks, overlapping fullbacks, that on the counter-attack are really key to getting us up the pitch. But then, of course, if you lose out like we did just there, they've then got an awful lot of work to do to get back in. But you notice our left fullback hadn't gone up the other side as Tavernier on this side had the ball. So we weren't outdone for numbers at the back. And that's part of the park the bus stuff, figuring out when the best opportunity for your players to actually make those types of runs are. And on that occasion, you can see our left fullback stayed where he was and kept a decent shape for us. So off another wide left throw-in, can we maintain our discipline? We can. They get a shot away, but the goalkeeper holds it very nicely. And again, after 40 minutes, we've got a couple of minutes left of the first half. You can see that the match stats suggest it's quite an even game. And I was I'll be quite honest and say, having not really used park the bus before as a mentality, as a tactical style of play, as we get another opportunity from a free kick, I was a little bit reticent to use it, I think, whenever I've played my games, thinking that all we're ever going to do is have like a bank of 4 and a bank of 5, and literally nobody will move from it, and we'll try and soak up all the pressure, but we won't do anything when we've got it. But that's not the case at all. It's been quite dynamic when we've got the ball and moving it. Potentially, I prefer it even more than some of the fluid counter-attacking stuff that's also in the tactics that we'll get to in a couple of weeks' time. But I think what we'll do is we'll leave the team talk blank. We'll leave all of the team talks blank, and then just get them to continue playing with a fresh mindset for themselves, and just ask them to play in the style that we've chosen and see how they cope with it. So in this second half, again, what we're looking for is a low line of engagement, but good counter-attacking if we win it at this sort of position in the pitch. On that occasion, that highlight didn't lead to much, but those are the things that we're looking at. And then a little bit of quality up top, just to see if we can get a goal here and there, just to keep us in these sorts of games as we move forward. It's still, you can set up the tactics as well as you like as Celtic come forward again, but we partially clear it. You can set up the tactics all you like, but we still have to get good performances individually out of the players, and they still need to show bits of quality here and there in being able to show that they can, take the chances that they get, or put in that last ditch effort in defence to get the ball back, whatever their role is. But we continue to set up very well. I like the discipline that they're showing. So what else are you noticing? Tell me about them in the comments below. What is it that you like about this style of football? What do you not like about it? How could you implement something? Oh, that was close. How could you implement this sort of style of play into your 3 tactics that you can train? Would it always be worth having something like this sitting in the background that you train up just so your players get used to it for any given circumstance? What circumstance would you use this in? Tell me about your thoughts in the comments below. This is part of what I want this series to be, as interactive as possible. At some point on the Sunday evening when oh, that's a shame, isn't it? A second goal for Celtic. But again, we dallied on the ball in that middle of the defensive, the penalty box, and a little bit of an own error, I felt like. Let's watch this a bit more closely just to see what happens. Cross comes in. We get a chance there to really boot it clear, and we don't take it. And again there, and it's dallying on the ball. I don't know whether that's necessarily about the defensive style of our tactic, or whether that's just players getting it wrong necessarily. We'll have to see about that as we go. As more of these games happen over the next few Sundays, we'll understand how Rangers and Celtic match up naturally, and sort of where player qualities lie, and where some of them don't quite have the quality. But yeah, 2-0 down. But yeah, tell me about what you're thinking in the comments. What I want this to be more than anything is interactive. After Sunday videos have been out for a while, I will come in and answer some of the questions or respond to some of the comments in there. But if you've got something to say, don't be shy about sharing it and letting me know what you think about the tactic that's here in this particular episode. That's how we learn about, where we can potentially use these tactics in our own setup, in our own games. And I think it's an interesting thing that they've put into the game in the last couple of seasons, all of these different tactical styles. I don't know how many of them you actually use, though. For one, I've probably haven't used half of them, probably, in my time, and it's about time that I probably did. So this is why I wanted to do this series, really, just to get a closer look at it. Long ball over the top for a free kick. We pick up the loose ball and send it back into our defensive area again, and good. That's the sort of style of play that we want. We want to draw them in and then use some pace down those wide areas potentially. And we've gone right the way back to the goalkeeper, who in theory should go long because that's his setup, and he does. But Morelos, of course, had dropped back in because the line of engagement wasn't particularly high and the two didn't quite match up as to where the goalkeeper put the ball. So that's something to think about. What's the goalkeeping distribution like in this sort of formation? Is he going to go long to a player that's never long enough because he's dropped back in? Oh, that was some strike, wasn't it? 3-0 down, unfortunately. I'm not bothered about scoreline, just so you know, because we're going to be repeating this game every week for the next 10 weeks. It's not about scoreline necessarily. It's about styles of play and what we're coping with and what we're not. On that occasion, it was just a bit of quality, wasn't it? They found some space down the left-hand side of the penalty box, and from a very acute angle, pile drives it into the top of the net. It was a really nice strike. Possibly goalkeeper could have done better, but, you know, that's fair enough. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting, though. I don't necessarily intend to make any substitutions, particularly. I will just let these 11 guys play the game out, because what we'll then be doing is wiping the game and going back to the save point before the match and resetting it for next week in that sense. So we don't have to worry about how tired they get in individual games at the moment. There's a good chance for us. Down the right-hand side, a decent effort comes in from the right-hand side, and Ojo under the ball gets a header on it, but it goes slightly over the top from obviously a tip over by the goalkeeper. Far post corner kick, and I thought for a second they'd given a free kick for us, but a penalty for us, but they hadn't. They'd given it against us. And so what it goes to show in this particular version of the game is that if you set Rangers up in this style of tactic, that they've got some defensive structure to them, which is good, but they do have a slight weakness in terms of their own individual qualities. Offensively, I think it's worked reasonably well. You can see that the match stats suggest that we are well and truly in this game. But is this the right tactic to go up against Celtic? Is this the one that ultimately at the end of it we'll think is the best way to have approached the game? Sitting back, letting Celtic come on to us, and then potentially counter-attacking. When we go into a more attacking sort of gegenpress, for example, later on in the series, when we're right up in their faces, right up on the high line, is that going to leave too much space for a good quality side like Celtic behind us to get over the top of us and encroach on our goal too readily? We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to find that out. So 71 minutes gone, another corner kick for Celtic. They get it, and we get it partially cleared, and then we give away a silly free kick on the edge of the box. And it'll be silly things like that that potentially give the quality of someone like Edouard for Celtic the chance to go for that goal. And he went for it then, but just slightly missed out. A good attempt, but ultimately it was not quite good enough on that occasion. But we can't afford to give silly things away on the edge of our box. And that's, I suspect, what the likes of Steven Gerrard as the current Rangers manager is always having to instill on his players. Don't give silly things away. Celtic are a good enough side to impact you on their worst day, let alone when you give them things. There's another good effort, but McGregor on this particular occasion is behind the ball quite comfortably. So we're into the last 10 minutes or so, and you can see that what this won't do, of course, is that we're 3-0 down, and what it won't do is enable us to change our style to go back at Celtic and change how we're working or not working, because I just want this game to play out and see how well we do in it. But later on, if you were to use this park the bus mentality or tactical style in your setup, where are the key points in games or in seasons where you would use it to gain the most from it, whilst then being able to change your style if it wasn't working, or if the game changed because people got sent off, or whatever the case may be? There are loads of places where we could use all of these different tactical styles, I would suggest. 3-0 down is not, it's not a great result, is it, really? If you're a Rangers fan out there, it's going to be a painful 10 weeks potentially, because I suspect more often than not, at the moment, Celtic have got a slightly higher quality squad than Rangers have. So we are going to suffer occasionally from defeat, I would suggest. And possibly there'll be more significant defeats than this one in the time of the series, because some of the tactical styles won't match up. There'll be at least one or two in there that we play that Celtic just go, brilliant. If you're going to play like that, we'll eat you for breakfast. But overall, I hope that we'll gain a quality picture overall as to some of the things that we can use. And that's the only intention of the series. So yeah, if you've got any other thoughts about some of the things that you're looking forward to in terms of other tactics that you haven't used before, or that you know have worked for you in the past that you'll be interested to see in this context, let me know what you're looking forward to in terms of other tactical styles as well. But I hope that you can see what the intention of the particular series is. I hope you won't get bored of seeing the same two sides every Sunday evening. I hope it will be still interesting to see something of the tactical style in it. But you know, we haven't taken a chance in this particular match, but there have been chances there to take. And on any given day, that's part of the thing of football, isn't it? Your striker can miss 3 identical chances in the row and get the 4th one just because on that occasion he gets the 4th one. You know, sometimes football works that way. We're at 90 minutes, couple of minutes left of this particular game, and we are still in this game in terms of the style of play. I have liked the way that we've set up. I just think it's unfortunate that the quality hasn't quite been there to actually put Celtic to the sword at any particular point in this game. But there are lots of this particular tactic that I've really appreciated. I've appreciated the structure of defensive discipline. I've appreciated the counter-attacking quality that there is to get the ball, especially into those wide areas for those overlapping fullbacks have been quite useful. But then it all comes down to personal quality, and maybe the quality isn't quite here for Rangers, and we'll only know that later in the series. And that is the very first FM20 Deja Vu match completed. Celtic got a very good win. You can see that we got a player booked, they didn't. They got a couple of they got an early goal which didn't really help us at all, and it was a little bit of a catalogue of errors and eventually an own goal for that. But in general, look at these match stats. 54% possession for us, which is very good. We've got 13 shots on goal and only 8 on target. But that is very, very good alongside what Celtic did. They just had the quality, which is a little bit disappointing that they are a little bit above and beyond us in that sense. But I can see what the tactic was trying to achieve, and I think if you'd used that for part of the game and then being able to turn it into something else and go again, I think there is definitely a place for the park the bus. So, as I say, what did you notice about this particular way of play? What did you notice that was positive and negative in the way that Rangers set up? What would you expect to be different if we go into different tactical styles in the future? What's going to be the one tactic that you're looking forward to the most that you think is what is going to undo Celtic the most? We'll have to wait and see. But I hope you'll enjoy the series. FM20 Deja Vu. Come join me next week for another Rangers v Celtic match. A different tactical approach. Next week we'll be going into a completely different style and keeping this particular formation and all the players, but just seeing how the style of the tactic differs and whether we can get a more positive result from a one-off game against Celtic. Against Celtic. So join me for that. Thanks for joining me for this. If you have enjoyed this particular episode, click a like button on the episode. Helps me get seen by lots of other people. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, come and join my United City community. Press that subscribe button and be part of my United City community. It'd be great to have you along with us. But until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.